diagnosed with COVID. Our feelings, our sentiments, and our wishes for their speedy recovery for them and for their families go out at this stage. So let me welcome you all here today to this meeting of the Guinea-Bissau configuration of the Peace Building Commission. Now, today's meeting comes at a very important moment. The completion of UNIOGBIS transition to a new format in the United Nations cooperation with Guinea-Bissau is just 2 months away. I'm confident that in this new juncture, the international community will continue to explore opportunities to support the people and the government of Guinea-Bissau to achieve its national peace-building objectives. This meeting will allow us also to receive updates from UNIOGBIS and ECOWAS on recent political developments, excuse me, as well as progress made towards the reform agenda established in the Conakry Agreement. We will also hear about the current needs and challenges in supporting Guinea-Bissau socio-economic development from the representatives of the African Development Bank and a women's civil society network in Guinea-Bissau. I had the pleasure of interacting and gaining new insights from these two representatives during a series of discussions I held during the past weeks. Additionally, I will brief you on my consultations with the International Monetary Fund and a representative of Guinea-Bissau's National Youth Council. Firstly, let me extend our welcome and the honor with which I welcome them to our briefers. Ms. Rosine Souhé-Coulibaly, Special Representative of the Secretary General and Head of the United Nations Integrated Peacebuilding Office in Guinea-Bissau, UNIOGBIS. Ambassador Emmanuel Oin, Representative of ECOWAS in Guinea-Bissau. Mr. Serge Nguessia, Deputy Director of the African Development Bank, and Ms. Anna Touré, Coordinator for the Women's Council of Guinea-Bissau for the facilitation of dialogue. I also welcome Guinea-Bissau's Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN and Chargée d'Affaires, Ms. Maria Antonieta Pinto Lopes Dalva. Following the briefings, I will open the floor to interventions from member states. Excellencies, as we will soon receive a briefing on political developments from SRSG Souhé-Coulibaly, I will focus my remarks on developments in the socio-economic realm. Prior to the establishment of the new government in Guinea-Bissau, the PBC championed the country's National Development Plan for 2015-2025, or Terra Arranca, while broadly endorsed by the People's National Assembly and subsequent government. The implementation of Terra Arranca was hindered by institutional instability and political tension. However, we have learned that Guinea-Bissau now has a new development plan recently approved by Parliament. We are eager to learn more about this new plan and discuss ways on how to support local institutions to implement them. I also note that the immediate and longer-term needs of the population are now heightened due to the global and regional impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The sustained support of the international community to the new development plan is therefore crucial. I recently had consultations with different actors on the ground. Please let me brief you on, firstly, on discussions with the International Monetary Fund and then with a representative from the National Youth Council. During my meeting with Mr. Patrick Guiton, a resident representative of the IMF, he underlined that the political stability afforded by the formation of a new government and the Supreme Court's, and the Supreme Court's confirmation of Umaru Sissoko Embalo as president provides a new opportunity for engagement from an economic standpoint, and expressed hope that continued stability would eventually foster increased institutional capacity. The IMF is currently negotiating an extended credit facility, or ECF, program with the new authorities, after stopping a previous ECF program in 2019 due to political instability. This potential re-engagement will focus on reforms in public governance. He underscored that improvements in public governance, in the broad sense, will be key to foster economic development in Guinea-Bissau. Additionally, even as the IMF provides technical assistance and policy advice to Guinea-Bissau, Mr. Guiton emphasized the importance of coordination with other partners working on governance and institutional capacity building, and noted that the IMF is already in regular dialogue with the UN country team. I also had a conversation with Dr. Aissatu Forbes, president of the National Youth Council. The council, created in 1994, is the main platform for youth organizations in Guinea-Bissau, with around 233 associations. It acts as an interlocutor between the government and youth associations, enabling the youth community to actively participate in public debate on the youth agenda. According to Dr. Forbes, the active participation of youth is critical in Guinea-Bissau, given that over 50% of the population is under the age of 25. The council organizes a youth university every year, providing a space for youth to debate issues such as unemployment, education, youth empowerment, and politics. Additionally, the council has been an active participant in election monitoring and has collaborated with UNIOGBIS on advocacy and sensitization on the Electoral Code of Conduct and the gender parity law. Dr. Forbes stressed that the young people of Guinea-Bissau are ready and willing to support their country's development and social progress. She noted, however, that COVID-19 is having a strong impact on youth, given the rising unemployment rates caused by the crisis. In view of this, I stress the need to invest in youth and reiterate the importance of the continued engagement of young men and women in shaping and sustaining peace. As the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic puts great stress on societies and political systems, I encourage multilateral and bilateral partners to remain engaged in order to reduce vulnerability and build resilience in Guinea-Bissau. Now, I would like to turn to our briefers to keep us abreast of news and developments in Guinea-Bissau. Firstly, if I may, I would like to invite Ms. Rosine Souris-Koulibaly, Special Representative of the Secretary General and Head of UNIOGBIS, to brief us on the latest political developments as well as progress made in the reform agenda ahead of the closure of UNIOGBIS. You have the floor, Ms. Souris-Koulibaly.
Thank you.
We can't hear you, Ms. Souris-Koulibaly.
think they can hear.
No, it's still, the sound is very patchy.
Technology.
Good afternoon, Excellency. Can you hear me now?
Perfect now. Now, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Ambassador Ronaldo Costa Filho, distinguished members of the Guinea-Bissau Country Configuration of the Peace Building Commission, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to update you on progress made towards peace and stability in Guinea-Bissau. Since my last briefing to the PBC on the 24th of June, followed by my briefing to the Security Council on the 10th of August, the political situation in the country has evolved and remains stable, particularly following the National Assembly's adoption of the government's program on the 29th of June. Other developments that have contributed to stability include the ruling by the Supreme Court on the 4th of September that ended the prolonged electoral dispute over the results of the second round of the presidential election. On the 7th of September, ECOWAS, recognizing the progress made towards stability in the country and the functioning of state institutions, particularly the National Assembly and government, decided to withdraw its military force, ECOMIB, from the 10th of September, ending 8 years of presence in the country. Moreover, on the 9th of September, the 2020 state budget and the National Development Plan were approved by the National Assembly, an achievement also commended by ECOWAS. It is noteworthy, though, that the approval was granted by 53 after the 102 members of parliament present, including 5 MPs from PAIGC, who disregarded their party's decision to boycott the session. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, on country's reforms agenda outlined in the Conakry Agreement of 2016 and the country's own Stability Pact, allow me to highlight 2 aspects related to the constitutional review and the review of the electoral and political parties laws. First, on the constitutional review, there are presently 2 parallel and competing processes that are a source of concern and tensions. On the one hand, the legislative process under the auspices of the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Commission for the Review of the Constitution, which benefited from the UN support since 2018, held a retreat in September to finalize its work. On the other hand, the Presidential Technical Commission, created by President Embalo, presented in August a draft of its work to the President, who indicated that it would be analyzed and submitted to the National Assembly, the government, and political parties for their inputs. On the 5th of October, the President shared the draft with political parties only for review. Meanwhile, initiatives to reconcile the 2 processes have so far been unsuccessful. Second, as part of the reform agenda, the review of the electoral and the political party laws by the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Commission has progressed with technical support provided by the UN. However, these 2 processes will need to be based on and reflect the text of the revised constitution. The planned high-level platform of international partners and national authorities for consensus building and accompaniment of the country's reforms process has unfortunately not been established. While the initial response from the government was positive, the lack of support by President Embalo has halted this initiative. I hope that the national authorities would reconsider and see the merits of the international community's support to the reforms agenda and agree on the establishment of the high-level platform, ramp up political support for the implementation of the reforms agenda. On the formation of an inclusive government, consensus remains elusive despite a series of engagements among relevant stakeholders. On the 7th of September, President Ambalori engaged with the PIGC on its participation in the government. However, differences continue to persist and prospects of a breakthrough remain bleak. The recent meetings I held with political parties confirm the shared understanding that reforms agenda and political dialogue are key to ensure political stability. However, the levels of mistrust and mutual accusations among stakeholders, as well as within and among political parties, continue to create a hostile environment, jeopardizing attempts towards political dialogue and making it difficult to reach compromise and mend bridges. Mr. Chairman, insecurity and human rights abuses against political opponents remain a concern and are creating a hostile political environment with reports of arbitrary arrests, intimidation, and unlawful detention of people. On the 5th of October, 2 social media political bloggers were allegedly kidnapped and manhandled by the military wing of the presidency and released the following day. The perceived lack of commitment to investigate the circumstances surrounding these incidents continue to heighten political tensions, reinforcing the perception that persistent acts of impunity are targeting political opponents are re-emerging. Particularly worrisome is the increase in ethnic and religious discourse, as well as hate speech in the political arena. Meanwhile, no progress has been made regarding investigations into the 26th of July raid on the Bissau-based Radio Capital FM. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, following UNOBI's imminent departure by the 31st of December, the UN agencies, funds, and programs that constitute the UN country team will continue their work in Guinea-Bissau, including on the residual mandated tasks of UNOBIS. In this regard, the PBF is currently supporting 2 major peace-building projects in support of the Stability Pact reforms and drug trafficking and organized crime in Guinea-Bissau. Both projects commenced in early 2020. However, following the outbreak of COVID-19, some activities were reoriented to empower youth and women leaders to play a front role in peaceful sensitization and community response. The Peacebuilding Fund will continue to be critical for the implementation of peacebuilding priorities and promotion of socio-economic development of the country, including the implementation of the key reforms agenda. Additionally, sustained collective engagement by the international community will remain crucial if we are to ensure sustainable peace, stability, and development of the country. In this regard, the role of the Peacebuilding Commission in keeping the country high on the international agenda, including advocating for financial support and engaging with the national authorities to promote peace and stability, will be vital to generate the potential multiplier effect of our collective efforts. Regional and international partners will also need to fully focus on supporting the core peace-building priorities and the country's long-term development. Mr. Chairman, in the remaining 65 days to the closure of UNOBIS, efforts are ongoing to reconfigure the UN presence in the country to continue critical peace-building and development activities in alignment with the country's national development and peace-building priorities. In this respect, an assessment of the UNCT's capacity against these peace-building priorities was undertaken to identify needs and necessary resources. A comprehensive assessment of the government and other partners' capacities is presently being carried out. The UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, UNSDCF, which encapsulates the UN Transition Plan, will provide the appropriate platform for continuing work by the UN presence in the country. However, sustained funding will be essential. Together, my deputy and I are currently engaging the authorities to ensure national ownership as well as aligning the UNSDCF with the National Development Plan and processes. In the meantime, to allow time for preparation of the UNSDCF, on the 19th of October, the government approved the UNCT's proposal to extend the current UN Partnership Assistance Framework for 1 year. Excellencies, you will recall that during my previous briefing to you, I stated that the PBC was an important forum to support Guinea-Bissau as it moves forward in achieving lasting peace and sustainable development. I wish to re-emphasize that the PBC's catalytic role remains crucial to support the urgently needed reforms to ensure stability, peace, and development in the country. I would like to thank the PBC for the strong partnership and support to the implementation of UNOCB's mandate. I would like also once more to express my deep gratitude to the PBC for its extraordinary support to Guinea-Bissau. Despite the recurrent political and institutional crisis, we have a shared responsibility to continue promoting inclusive and sustainable development for the country. As UNOCB's closest, I would like to reiterate that the country requires your support more than ever to support the UN transition and beyond to consolidate the gains and propel the country towards sustainable peace, stability, and sustainable development. Thank you very much for your attention.
Allow me to thank the SRSG very warmly for the comprehensive information she has brought to the Confederation, as well as her evaluations on the situation on the ground. Next on the list of briefers, I have the permanent representative of ECOWAS in Guinea-Bissau, Ambassador Emmanuel Ohin. Could you confirm if you're here? I don't have the full screen to see everyone. Ambassador Ohin, if you are there, the floor is yours.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur l'ambassadeur, Messieurs les ambassadeurs, bonjour. Je vais m'exprimer en français. J'espère que vous me comprendrez. Je ne vais pas reprendre les éléments de la situation politique qui ont été énoncés par Madame Soré Coulibaly. Je vais plutôt insister sur les perspectives vues de là-haut, mais je rappelle avant cela quelques éléments importants qui ont marqué la situation politique telle que la CEDEAO l'a vécue. Pour bien comprendre la position de la CEDEAO, il faut se souvenir que le 4 octobre 2016, les différents protagonistes de la crise politique bissau-guinéenne se sont retrouvés en Guinée-Conakry pour signer ce qui est désormais appelé les accords de Conakry. Les objectifs assignés aux accords de Conakry, c'est d'abord de parvenir à la pacification et à la stabilisation du pays. Ensuite, c'est d'aller à un fonctionnement normal des institutions du pays. Vous vous rappellerez que le gouvernement était bloqué et aucune des institutions ne fonctionnait normalement. Pour parvenir donc à la réalisation de ces deux objectifs, la CEDEAO a mis en place une mission de médiation qui s'est attelée à travailler au quotidien avec tous les acteurs. Cette médiation est parvenue à définir un plan électoral qui s'est traduit par l'organisation des élections législatives qui a été fait le 19 mars 2019 et ça a été suivi plus tard par les élections présidentielles les 24 et 29 décembre 2019. Malheureusement, les résultats de ces élections contestés, l'une des parties et cela a fait que les nouvelles autorités qui ont été mises en place n'ont pas été immédiatement. Le contentieux a pu être vidé en son temps et CEDEAO vient agir pour noter la situation. Mais le 7 septembre 2020, au sommet de Niamey qui est venu au Niger, finalement, les chefs d'État et de gouvernement ont pris acte des changements entre ceux qui sont intervenus en Guinée-Bissau. Ici, en l'occurrence, l'approbation du programme de gouvernement mis en place par les nouvelles autorités. Le gouvernement est dirigé par M. qui n'a pas été reconnu par la CEDEAO, mais parce que le programme de ce gouvernement a été approuvé par la majorité au sein du Parlement, comme nous sommes dans un système présidentiel, les chefs d'État ont considéré que c'est une forme de reconnaissance du nouveau Premier ministre qui a été installé et dont la légitimité était contestée. Plus tard, le gouvernement a pris un budget au sein de ce même Parlement, budget approuvé à une large majorité. À partir de cet instant-là, les chefs d'État ont dit que les conditions étaient remplies pour procéder à la reconnaissance du gouvernement qui a été installé, qui est un gouvernement qui ne comporte pas l'opposition, c'est-à-dire le parti qui a gagné l'élection législative, le PAIGC. Néanmoins, compte tenu de ce que la majorité a changé au sein du Parlement, CEDEAO a considéré que l'approbation et du programme et du budget suffisant pour qu'on considère les nouvelles autorités comme légitimes et légales. Mais cela a été quelques jours avant que la Cour suprême, qui avait été contentieux, se soit en octobre 2020. C'est comme une décision qui est venue la CEDEAO dans sa position, puisque le octobre 2020, la Cour suprême de justice de Guinée-Bissau a dit que les requêtes en annulation des élections telles que présentées par le gouvernement étaient infondées. À partir de ce moment-là, nous avons une décision de justice qui met fin définitivement au contentieux électoral. Évidemment, la CEDEAO, comme la plupart des organisations internationales, nous avons une séparation normale avec les nouvelles autorités. Entre-temps, les résultats de pacification et de stabilisation de la Guinée-Bissau ayant été totalement achevés par les forces militaires de la CEDEAO et communes, cette force s'est retirée à la demande des Bissau-guinéennes. Est-ce que pour autant, la situation actuelle est une situation définitivement normalisée? À certains égards, on peut répondre par l'affirmative. Mais du point de vue de la CEDEAO, il s'agit, en dehors de la normalisation, on devait procéder à certaines réformes qui avaient été identifiées comme indispensables pour permettre au pays de s'installer dans une stabilité stable. Ces réformes portaient sur l'institution, réforme de la justice, réforme de défense et de sécurité et la révision de la Constitution qui, à certains égards, avait quelques problèmes. Madame a rappelé, des démarches ont été par le président de la République et par l'Assemblée de la révision de la Constitution. Démarche parallèle Mais aujourd'hui, les réformes qui ont été envisagées aussi bien au Parlement que par le comité technique mis en place par le gouvernement sont des réformes qui ne sont pas encore descendues au niveau du public. Le chef de l'État apparemment semble se pencher pour le régime de type présidentiel, tandis que le Parlement semble opter pour le type semi-présidentiel. Nous sommes là un jeu politique certainement verra issu à le dialogue entre les différentes parties. La CEDEAO va continuer à aider à aller dans le sens d'un dialogue pour que le résultat des échanges qui résulteront de cette réunion puisse être l'intérêt de toutes les parties en présence. Et le chef de l'État, pour le signaler, à plusieurs reprises dit également, n'arrivait pas à obtenir le consensus qu'il attend des acteurs, il sera obligé de faire recours à un référendum de s'adressement au peuple pour que le débat savoir quelle est la forme des institutions qui seront désormais celles du pays. Étant dit, et dans la mesure où la CEDEAO considère que la situation est plus ou moins non aujourd'hui, nous continuerons à travailler pour que les réformes deviennent définitives. Alors, mais nous ne pourrons continuer à pousser les autorités dans le sens des réformes si nous ignorons les problèmes qui s'opposent au quotidien. Et c'est là qu'aborde la nouvelle perspective de la CEDEAO sur la situation de Guinée-Bissau. Cette perspective se traduit essentiellement par une approche à la fois politique, mais surtout économique et sociale. Alors, au niveau de la CEDEAO, nous avons quelque chose que nous appelons le programme régional pour le développement et la stabilisation, qui est un programme qui est conçu pour venir en aide aux centres des situations de crise ou des difficultés mineures. Le programme a été en œuvre en Gambie et a produit des résultats appréciables. La CEDEAO, considérant que la situation en Guinée-Bissau est en voie de normalisation définitive, a décidé de déployer son programme régional pour le développement. À cet égard, une rendue ici en Guinée-Bissau du 17 au 23 septembre dernier et a procédé à l'évaluation des besoins et impacter les populations directement. Il s'agit surtout d'intervenir dans le domaine de l'entrepreneuriat jeune, des femmes, à travers le microcrédit. Il faut intervenir dans le domaine de l'artisanat, des activités qui pourraient impacter directement les populations. Et en plus de cela, la CEDEAO a décidé de façon concrète et massive de procéder à une route qui a un caractère régional, la route Bissau-Bafoussam, et mobilisant un crédit de l'ordre de 30 millions de dollars pour réhabiliter cette route, étant entendu que si cette réhabilitation était faite, il y aura des impacts aussi bien sur le commerce, les activités commerciales, ainsi que sur d'autres activités dans la région. Deuxième programme phare qui a été annoncé, la réhabilitation de l'université Amilcar Cabral pour une valeur de près de 10 millions de dollars. Bien entendu, ces crédits qui sont en train d'être mobilisés, qui sont engagés en direction d'autres institutions internationales, renforcer les qui sont en train d'être mobilisés afin d'avoir un impact plus large sur la population. Au niveau de la CEDEAO, et par là, au niveau de la CEDEAO, nous considérons que après être parvenu à obtenir les résultats qui sont aujourd'hui, la situation est presque normalisée. Il n'y a que des défis qu'on va résoudre avec la forme. Il faut action sur le programme de développement et de stabilisation. Parce que c'est par ce moyen que nous pouvons maintenir un dialogue constructif et fructueux avec les nouvelles autorités qui, lorsque l'on de leur donner des actions, ils ont l'impression que l'on s'ingère un peu dans les activités, dans les activités qui relèvent de leur activité. Nous ne pourrions pas continuer à agir comme ça si, de l'autre côté, nous n'avons pas notre JBCR des moyens d'aider les populations concrètement. Messieurs les ambassadeurs, ce que je pourrais dire très rapidement sur la situation politique et les perspectives telles qu'elles sont vues de la CEDEAO. Je pourrais à tout moment apporter des précisions si vous le souhaitez. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
I thank Ambassador Emmanuel Ohin very warmly for the updates he has provided on the support ECOWAS is providing to peace and stability efforts in Guinea-Bissau. I have to say that the connection was less than ideal. I think all of us missed bits of your statement because of connection problems. And I would ask you, Ambassador, if you were able to convey a written version of the statement to us so that we could circulate it to members for a better comprehension. I would also be remiss if I did not acknowledge the presence amongst us of Ambassador Mahama Kapia, who is the new representative of ECOWAS to the United Nations. We trust that you would become a constant, valued, and active participant in the work of this configuration. Welcome to New York, Ambassador Kapia. Let me now turn and welcome Mr. Serge Nguessien, Deputy Director of the African Development Bank, to brief us on the work the bank is undertaking in Guinea-Bissau. I recently had the opportunity to have a conversation with Mr. Nguessien, and I'm confident that his presentation will highlight the important role the African Development Bank has been playing in furthering socioeconomic development in Guinea-Bissau. Mr. Nguessien, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson, and Your Excellencies, members of the Peace Building Commission of Guinea-Bissau Confederation. Allow me, Chairman, first of all, on behalf of the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, and the bank's personnel, to express our sincere thanks to you and the Commission for inviting the bank to this important meeting. My remarks will have two aspects. The first one, I will give you some socioeconomic context currently of the Guinea-Bissau. I know you know the Guinea-Bissau, but it's always good to remind the member of the Commission of what we have in Guinea-Bissau, and also present the bank's, the African Development Bank work in Guinea-Bissau, and our collaboration with the other institutions, international institutions supporting Guinea-Bissau. Mr. Chairman, when we talked last week, I told you that for us in the African Development Bank, Guinea-Bissau is one of our most important countries in the region, in the sense that not only Guinea-Bissau is in a fragile state, a transition state for us, but we consider and we see the full potential, the full socioeconomic potential of this country. This is one of the countries in the region which has enormous natural resources. The human capacity is there, and we believe that with the support of the international community, this country can catch up with the rest of the countries in the region. So the African Development Bank has been in Guinea-Bissau since the independence. Our first operation intervened in '76. It was a road project we did there. And since '76, we are in Guinea-Bissau, despite the political crisis this country has known. In terms of the recent socioeconomic development, the gross prospects in 2020 that we had foreseen for Guinea-Bissau have been highly compromised by the political crisis after the presidential election, and mostly by the COVID outbreak. The COVID pandemic has hit very hard Guinea-Bissau economy, overly dependent on agriculture, especially cashew nut exports and rice production. The GDP growth outlook for 2020, we had estimated it in December 2019 at around 5%, has now been negatively revised by the bank to minus 1.5% in the baseline scenario and minus 3.1% in the worst case scenario. So this is a difficult situation for Guinea-Bissau. The reduced cashew nut price and the export volume caused by lower international demand are really the main factor for the growth revision. The public finance situation is not better currently in Guinea-Bissau. The Guinea-Bissau's fiscal position also already above the West African Economic Monitoring Union convergence criteria at 5% in 2019 is expecting to remain at high level. The government debt is expecting to reach 79.8% of GDP in 2020. And this is an increase of 13.2% from 2019, just in 1 year. So the government revenues has also shrank by 22% this year. And based on the budget of the 2020 budget approved by the parliament of the government, the investment, the public investment in this country will be close to nil. It will be very difficult for Guinea-Bissau to invest in its development with this crisis. This is very important for the Commission. The social sector development is also not very good. The poverty, the African Development Bank projection on poverty estimate is around 65% of the population. This is one of the largest, the highest in the region. The youth population, which is represent about 61%, has the job employment problem, which is a very structural problem in Guinea-Bissau. The education system is a major challenge. The health system, we come to that. The health system is almost inexistent, and the gender inequality persistent in the country. So we have an economic situation very harsh for the country, and we have a social situation which is also very, very, very challenging for the government, which cannot invest because of the limited resources. Guinea-Bissau then, currently is still facing the same. When you look at the development path of Guinea-Bissau since the independence, the country is still facing the same development challenges that prevailed since the 70s. High poverty and income inequality, weak quality of governance and institutions, and weak infrastructure. But like I said, despite these development challenges, Guinea-Bissau has a lot of potentials. We can mention the increased potential for tourism, the agriculture and fishery value chain, which is really the sector where we want, the bank itself is investing, but we want our partner to really support Guinea-Bissau. The extractive industry, abundance of potentially exploitable natural resources, large deposit of bauxite, phosphate, hardwood, all you say that Guinea-Bissau has it. The green growth and renewable energy, huge potential. So we are a country, we are in face of a country which has such potential, but the challenge is also huge. To address these development challenges and taking into consideration the potential of the country, the African development strategy in the countries is very simple. We are focusing in two pillars. The first pillar is to strengthen the governance and the foundation of the states. And the second pillar is to develop inclusive infrastructure. We want to see Guinea-Bissau with a very strong state, which will be able to plan for its development and implement itself, its development plan. We want the institutions, the legal, social, and economic institutions in the country to be strong, to be able to push for the development. We know that the weakest element in the development of Guinea-Bissau is its infrastructure. The country lacks infrastructure, from energy, road, water. All the infrastructure are really below the average level of any countries in the region, and not even in Africa. Guinea-Bissau is maybe one of the countries in Africa which doesn't have its energy capacity. It doesn't produce its own energy. So the bank is investing in developing this infrastructure. We have been, as a portfolio, invested, sales 76, about $360 million in this infrastructure. For the past 4 years, we have invested around $125 million to modernize the energy sector, the agriculture sector, and the road sector. We are going to continue doing that, and we really want to really ask our partners and the Commission, the countries represented by the Commission members, to really invest in these areas: energy sector, agriculture sector, and the road sector. Because of the COVID pandemic, we have shifted a little bit our infrastructure investment to also support the health sector. And this year, we have started to develop an operation in the health sector to help the country fight the pandemic. We are going to help the country to rehabilitate some health facilities, and also procure some health equipment. We also intend to support the country with a budget support. Once you mentioned the discussion the country is having with the IMF, when that discussion will have a positive head, we will be able to come with a budget support to help the country invest in also the health sector. Mr. Chairman, I want to stop here and to say that the African Development Bank is one of the oldest partners of the Guinea-Bissau. And our main focus is really on social infrastructure, economic infrastructure. And we believe that if we have the support of all our partners, and especially to attract private sector investment in Guinea-Bissau, that will change the country for good. So we remain committed, and for this meeting, I'm very pleased to join the meeting, and I'm ready to answer any question the members have. Thank you very much.
Allow me to express my appreciation to Mr. Ngesa for his briefing, which was at the same time sobering in terms of the immediate challenges that Guinea-Bissau faces, and encouraging in his optimism over the potential of Guinea-Bissau. So thank you for this view. Let me now welcome Ms. Anna Touré, Coordinator for the Women's Council of Guinea-Bissau, for the facilitation of dialogue, to brief the PBC on the activities of the Council. Now, Ms. Touré will be delivering her statement and her remarks in Portuguese. So we have circulated her written statement in English in advance, and will also now provide the statement in the chat function of Zoom for members who so desire. Ms. Touré, tens a palavra. You have the floor.
Muito boa tarde. Muito obrigada. Em primeiro lugar, gostaria de agradecer pela oportunidade dada para apresentarmos a nossa visão sobre a situação da Guiné-Bissau, as nossas atividades e os desafios que enfrentamos. Em segundo lugar, aceitam as nossas saudações de paz. O Conselho das Mulheres da Guiné-Bissau é uma estrutura inclusiva que iniciou as suas ações em 2015 como grupo de mulheres facilitadoras de diálogo e em 2018 transformou-se em Conselho das Mulheres. Isso foi validado num fórum de várias organizações de mulheres com o apoio da ONU e, em particular, do PBF. O Conselho das Mulheres da Guiné-Bissau é um órgão que congrega as mulheres de diferentes sensibilidades políticas, econômicas e sociais e inclui representantes regionais e dos partidos políticos. O Conselho das Mulheres inclui as principais redes regionais e as organizações não governamentais nacionais que trabalham sobre a paz e segurança, sobre a participação política, sobre o direito das mulheres e inclusão e ainda sobre a proteção contra a violência baseada no gênero e de práticas nefastas contra as mulheres. O objetivo principal do Conselho das Mulheres da Guiné-Bissau é reforçar o diálogo para a paz e segurança através da advocacia, lobbying, acompanhamento das ações dos órgãos de soberania e divulgação das leis em colaboração e coordenação com outras organizações da sociedade civil. Ainda tem por missão promover a integração da perspectiva de gênero no processo de paz, do diálogo inclusivo com vista à estabilidade política e governativa no país, através do estabelecimento de uma agenda comum das mulheres, finalizando ao empoderamento econômico e social, juntando ao desenvolvimento sustentável e a coesão. A instabilidade política e a situação política no país, podemos dizer que, perante a agravação da situação política e, consequentemente, das dificuldades e condições de vida das mulheres e raparigas, nós, respeitosamente, questionamos a decisão das Nações Unidas de retirar a missão da ONU para a paz na Guiné-Bissau e o seu Departamento de Gênero, assim como da ONU Mulheres, que davam apoio técnico e financeiro às organizações da sociedade civil que trabalham para a paz e segurança, incluindo o Conselho das Mulheres. Esta opção deixa um vazio na luta pela promoção da paz, segurança e igualdade de oportunidades. Assim, nós ainda temos como as ações que a mulher realiza para a paz na Guiné-Bissau, em que o Conselho das Mulheres, após análise da grave situação política, social e econômica, da redução de condições de nível de vida das pessoas, incluindo o vazio devido à retirada da unidade de gênero e da UNIOGBIS, para a paz na Guiné-Bissau, no âmbito do cumprimento das suas missões de promoção da igualdade de paz, proteção dos direitos das mulheres, juntamente com outras 15 organizações femininas da sociedade civil, decidimos enviar uma carta aberta ao secretário-geral das Nações Unidas, Sua Excelência, Sr. Engenheiro Antônio Guterres, no dia 12 de agosto do ano em curso. Este documento não só espelhou a vida e preocupação das mulheres, mas também formulou recomendações às Nações Unidas, entre as quais o apoio à realização das atividades abertas para a paz ainda este ano. Para o efeito da divulgação deste importante documento, as organizações das mulheres promoveram no dia 14 do mês de agosto deste ano uma conferência de imprensa para informar aos jornalistas e à sociedade em geral sobre este facto. Também chamou-se a atenção das autoridades nacionais através de várias conferências de imprensa, por um lado, para testemunhar o aumento do nível da violência, incluindo a violência política, com particular destaque para a violência exercida sobre as mulheres. Por outro lado, para também se ver a degradação das condições de vida das mulheres devido à situação econômica do país, que está agravado pela pandemia da Covid-19. As atividades futuras e os desafios a enfrentar, nós, as mulheres, consideramos que é necessário enfrentar de forma eficaz os desafios relativos à governação do país e indicar de forma honesta, coletiva e partilhada as causas profundas dos conflitos e da contínua instabilidade. Também é necessário introduzir modalidades de ações transformativas que promovam a igualdade de gênero na promoção de soluções. O Conselho das Mulheres apela ainda a esta comissão e a toda a comunidade internacional para dar mais força e continuidade a um trabalho de análise, avaliação e mudança conjunta através de um diálogo franco, estruturado e permanente com todas as mulheres, jovens e a sociedade civil de diferentes níveis. O Conselho das Mulheres não está à espera, pretende desde já contribuir no processo. Também ter em autonomia e com as suas forças limitadas e vai realizar atividades que permitam, por um lado, um rigoroso diagnóstico da situação de igualdade na Guiné-Bissau e, por outro, reforçar a capacidade das mulheres e raparigas para promoverem intervenções setoriais, regionais para a paz. A nossa primeira área de intervenção será o diálogo político e reformas e governação, que incluirá a promoção do diálogo político ao alto nível, bem como a participação das mulheres nas reformas prioritárias em curso, como, por exemplo, na revisão da Constituição, na revisão da lei de quadro dos partidos políticos, participação das mulheres na revisão da lei eleitoral e leis sobre questões específicas que preocupam as mulheres e jovens, como a lei sobre pedofilia. A promoção da participação da política das mulheres, neste sentido, estamos a trabalhar com a plataforma política das mulheres no reforço das capacidades das mulheres, membros dos partidos políticos, para que sejam bem reforçados. Ainda no sentido de capitalizar ações na área dos direitos humanos, inclusão, participação e proteção, as nossas ações nos próximos meses serão centradas na realização de fóruns setoriais e regionais de apoio às mulheres ativistas locais para a paz, acesso à justiça, na produção de vídeos sobre boas práticas e estratégias das mulheres para resolução e gestão de conflitos e na promoção da paz. E o nosso plano também será a realização do Dia Global, que será um dia aberto, em colaboração com o Grupo Temático de Gênero da ONU e do Grupo de Trabalhos das Mulheres Jovens para a Paz e Segurança da sub-região UNOAS. Nós ainda temos como principais áreas de desafios prioridades para a consolidação da paz. Os desafios estão ligados ao contexto de degradação contínua da paz social, econômico e político no país, que está a ser provocado pelo crônico ciclo de instabilidade política, de violência, da impunidade crônica e estrutural e da pandemia da Covid-19. Fatores que politicamente não sustentam a solidariedade entre mulheres, tanto nas instituições públicas e privadas. Por exemplo, na administração pública, as instituições encontram-se fragmentadas, incoerentes, politizadas e não receptivas das necessidades da população e particularmente das mulheres, jovens e pessoas vulneráveis. Os desafios externos são relacionados com a fraca aliança dos doadores no apoio às organizações femininas e aquelas que trabalham para a paz no ambiente caracterizado pela crise e violência nos países da sub-região, da África Ocidental, da África, perda de credibilidade e legitimidade popular dos governantes e das instituições regionais, que também influenciam os processos internos. Consideramos que uma das principais prioridades para a consolidação da paz na Guiné-Bissau é a continuação do diálogo político, que deve incluir necessariamente as mulheres, jovens, para que deles resultem soluções que visem o bem-estar das populações. Para além da necessária estabilidade política, o desafio também será acelerar o crescimento econômico e, acima de tudo, modificar a sua estrutura para assegurar a prosperidade econômica e o maior bem-estar das populações. Deve-se adotar uma abordagem de crescimento que valorize e apoie a contribuição econômica das mulheres, muitas vezes através do mercado informal, tendo em conta a profundidade da pobreza rural, a promoção do crescimento do setor agrícola e o apoio às mulheres rurais deve ser uma prioridade. A valorização do papel das mulheres enquanto prestadores de cuidados básicos, seja na área da educação, saúde, como na organização de redes de solidariedade, também deve ser prioridade para que tenha complementariedade e, por vezes, que são substituições do Estado, que pouca presença tem nas zonas rurais e que é fundamental para manter a coesão social e impedir a desintegração do tecido social. Cabe aqui também o trabalho de proteção contra a violência, incluindo a violência contra as mulheres e as práticas nefastas. Estas três prioridades, estabilidade política, reestruturação da economia em prol do bem-estar da população e assegurar serviços básicos à população, que também são do Conselho das Mulheres, exigem a mobilização de meios financeiros para realizar as ações concretas de forma continuada e coerente. Ações de treinamento em vários âmbitos são necessárias para que a contribuição das mulheres seja reconhecida, valorizada e cada vez mais eficaz. Para materializar estas ações, é necessário a conjugação de esforços com o grupo de trabalho de mulheres, jovens para a paz e segurança na África Ocidental, no sentido de fazer lobbying e advocacia junto das autoridades e órgãos de soberania. A comunidade internacional, a Organização das Nações Unidas, a sociedade civil, as mulheres e jovens devem trabalhar de forma coordenada, visando influenciar as autoridades e órgãos de soberania para terem em consideração a agenda de paz das mulheres e de ultrapassarem as suas querelas, como, por exemplo, a competição entre as comissões para a revisão constitucional, que nos parece ser um ponto de conflito entre a Presidência da República e o Parlamento da Guiné-Bissau. Muito obrigada pela vossa atenção. Termino aqui as minhas palavras. Obrigada.
Senhora Ana Touré, uma satisfação revê-la e muito obrigado por sua participação e suas informações. I thank Ms. Touré for her briefing and for her presence here today. I think it's safe to say on behalf of all the members that the Peace Building Commission recognizes the important contribution of civil society to all stages of peace building efforts. And I'm honored to have her here today as a representative of the Women's Civil Society Network, particularly during this month of Women, Peace and Security. Let me now turn to Deputy Permanent Representative Ms. Maria Antonieta Pinto Lopes Dalva to give her remarks on behalf of the Permanent Mission of Guinea-Bissau to the United Nations. Ambassador Maria Antonieta, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for organizing this important meeting at this unprecedented time when all of us are coping with the health crisis of COVID-19 pandemic. My condolences to all members of this configuration for the losses of lives in their respective countries and families and friends. And my prayers go to our colleagues at the UN that at this moment were tested yesterday to COVID-19. Mr. President, at the outset, I would like to reaffirm the appreciation of Guinea-Bissau and my mission for the attention and dedication of Brazil as chair of PBC, Guinea-Bissau configuration, and for all the efforts that you have been doing on behalf of peace building in my country throughout these years. Allow me, Mr. President, to thank Her Excellency, Madame Rosine Sori Coulibaly, the Special Representative of United Nations Secretary General in Guinea-Bissau, for our work in my country and for the briefing she just presented to the configuration. I know that it was not easy for your predecessors, Madame Coulibaly, that have represented the United Nations Secretary General in Bissau in the past 2 decades. But you, Madame Coulibaly, have earned my special appreciation for the way you have done your work in this short time in Bissau, despite the difficult environment you encountered. You arrived Bissau on one more peak of Guinea-Bissau problems, in a time when the anxieties for the preparations of the election were high, followed by a difficult post-electoral period, plus the drawdown and closure of UNOGBIS, and the unforeseen COVID-19 pandemic. And yet you have shown strength, focus, and dedication, which allowed you to accomplish a lot to date. I believe that as the last special representative of Secretary General in Bissau, you are doing your utmost to leave good grounds where you and country team, and you know us, will continue to work on to bring durable peace and sustainable development for people of Guinea-Bissau. Mr. President, I also wish to thank the ECOWAS for to thank for the statement on behalf of ECOWAS and the engagement of ECOWAS on the cause of peace and stability in Guinea-Bissau. The work and the mediation role played by our subregional organization in the process of consolidating peace in our country is very much appreciated by my government. My sincere gratitude also goes to Mr. Serge Nguessan, Deputy Director General of African Development Bank, for his comprehensive briefing and for all the support to my country, especially for the extension of country strategy paper 2015-2019 to December 2021. The work of ADB group has been crucial on helping to stabilize the political and socioeconomic developments in the country. In particular, during this challenging period that we are dealing with the sanitary crisis of COVID-19 pandemic. Please allow me also, Mr. President, to extend a warm welcome to my sister, Ms. Hannah Touré, the coordinator of Women's Council for Guinea-Bissau, for the facilitation and dialogue. As a woman of Guinea-Bissau, I am very proud of you, of the work you are doing, and for all that you and other sisters have accomplished on promoting political dialogue and for being always able to bring the main stakeholders to the negotiating table. Allow me also, Mr. President, to thank all members of this configuration in advance for their statement and for their continued engagement on the PBC efforts for the cause of peace and stability in Guinea-Bissau. Mr. President, after the comprehensive briefings presented today, I will not say much, but I want to emphasize that the 2 decades of UN mission in Guinea-Bissau went by, and as we just heard, the country remains fragile with many challenges ahead, and the political and socioeconomic vulnerabilities remain high, making the work of PBC more important than ever. We don't have enough words to thank all of you, members of this configuration, all international community, for the targeted advisory role that PBC has played throughout these years for consolidating peace in Guinea-Bissau. And we have no doubt that you will continue to play this role with the new UN mandate. As the end of the UNOGBI's mandate is coming fast, the underlying priority points for Guinea-Bissau is in this phase of drawdown and the reconfiguration should not lose sight of all peace-building gains achieved so far. No matter how small they might seem, it is crucial that they are integrated into the new configuration of UN country teams and the UNOWAS, and that all lessons learned are taken into account, that the mistakes of these past years are not repeated. Mr. President, the COVID-19 pandemic that have scourged the world and spare no one country has been particularly harder on fragile countries like Guinea-Bissau, impacting the socioeconomic situation of the country negatively. The cashew nut season, in which the country heavily depends on, was hard hit, making the lives of population much more difficult, and leaving the already weak healthcare system with no capacity to help. The government acted fast on taking a difficult social distancing measures and shutdowns to control the spread of virus. But for a country where informal sector is a big part of income revenue for many families, these measures has not been easy to maintain, and the most vulnerable, such as women, who are heads of many households in Guinea-Bissau, are particularly suffering. The youth population also are suffering. The unemployment is high. We need your support for capacity building to this section of our population. The children are also one of the most affected groups by the pandemics in Guinea-Bissau because of the negative impact on their education. With the shutdown of schools and the lack of technological means and internet accessibility, our children's future is on hold because of COVID pandemic. We are celebrating 75 years of UN. We pledged to leave no one behind, but without your help, the children of Guinea-Bissau are staying behind. And as they do, Guinea-Bissau also is staying behind because they are the future. And with no education, there is no future. With the pandemic, I realized how much my country needed the support of all of you to help us fund our public schools with the adequate technologies so that our children can still learn as other children in the world in difficult times such as this. With the help of friendly countries and international organizations such as WHO, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the Global Fund, the Alibaba Jack Ma Foundation, and others, the country has been able to manage to keep down the positive cases and the low death rates. However, we are still lacking the testing capacity to effectively report and the contact trace to avoid the spread of virus and to keep infections low. We are once again counting on your support, as always, to save lives in our country. Mr. President, the PBC, through the Peace Building Fund on the ground, have been very relevant on the ground, conciliating efforts to support and the active participation of civil society, especially women and youth, in the political processes and the peace-building efforts in Guinea-Bissau. The work that Ms. Touré and the other women have been doing to facilitate the dialogue proves the effectiveness of the project supported by PBF and the important role that women can play. And we're asking you to continue your support through the PBF so that these women and the youth can continue doing their work in the maintaining the peace in the country, helping to maintain peace in the country. We are aware that more efforts through constant dialogue for national reconciliation need to be made internally by the main political stakeholders for the sustainability of peace in my country. And as the women and youth have already demonstrated their capacity in promoting dialogue for peace building, they should be considered as main players in all processes, including the reforms. And your continued support for their initiatives and projects to those goals is pivotal. We have a hope that the country is in a path for a fresh beginning for peace, stability, and socioeconomic development. However, we understand that only by strengthening our institutions of republic, the democracy, the rule of law, can lead us towards these much needed steps, thus creating an enabling environment to implement the necessary reforms and promote a sustainable development in our country. Mr. President, before concluding, I would like to thank the UN and the members of PBC Guinea-Bissau configuration, the P5 in Bissau, our bilateral and multilateral partners and friends for all the support and continued engagement of each one of you on its quest for sustainable peace and development, especially as the UN presence in the country enters its new phase. The people of Guinea-Bissau are counting on all of you to use the lessons learned from these past decades that the UN mission has been in our country, and to reflect on what was done wrong and what is the best approach to really help Guinea-Bissau in a concrete and palpable way to achieve the long-lasting peace and help the population out of poverty. We need a new chapter with a new mandate. Guinea-Bissau has all that can put it into the path for development. Please strategize the new mandate on a way to really help us consolidate efforts to bring a durable peace so that we can focus on achieving the sustainable development agenda as other nations in Africa and the world for a better future of the next generation of Bissau Guineans. I thank you, Mr. President.
Muito obrigado. Thank you very much, Ms. Lopes-Dalva, for your statement. I would now like to move on to the floor for an interactive segment to hear from members of the configuration. I remind everyone that those who wish to take the floor can request so through the chat function. I encourage questions to the briefers and an interactive discussion as possible between the members. The first speaker on my list is my good friend, the permanent representative of Egypt, Mohammed Idris. You have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you very much, dear Ronaldo, our distinguished chair, for convening this meeting. And I also take the opportunity to thank and appreciate the high-level briefers, the SRCG and other distinguished briefers for their thoughtful and comprehensive remarks on the recent developments and peace-building priorities in Guinea-Bissau. And I'd like to acknowledge and thank the ASG, dear Oscar Fernandez, and the team of PBSO, and our sister Maria, the Chargé of Guinea-Bissau. Egypt welcomes the encouraging developments in Guinea-Bissau, as we heard lots of positive developments, including the approval by the ex-president of the new prime minister, as well as the adoption by the parliament of the state budget for 2020 and the government's national development plan. We hope this would create an enabling environment to overcome the political and institutional challenges the country is facing, including those related to constitutional reforms, so as to focus efforts on addressing socioeconomic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Guinea-Bissau peace-building priorities. As we witness the drawdown of UNIGOBIS and the transfer of tasks to the UN country team, the United Nations Office for West Africa and Sahel, UNWAS, and other partners, I would like to share a few points. First, it's critical to ensure enhanced strategic partnerships with regional and sub-regional organizations, as well as with international financial institutions in support of stability and socioeconomic development in Guinea-Bissau, to ensuring continuity of efforts and preserving peace-building gains. Second, prioritizing investment in strengthening national ownership in Guinea-Bissau through building national and local institutions and capability and capacities stands out as a central principle around which all other peace-building and sustaining peace efforts revolve. Therefore, we believe that such investment will ensure the effectiveness and sustainability of peace-building efforts, moving beyond quick fixes and short-term stabilization to creating prosperous and positive peace. Third, the PBC shall explore ways to mobilize international attention and support nationally owned efforts in Guinea-Bissau with a view to mitigate the potential destabilizing impacts of COVID-19 on economic development and the risk of reversing peace gains. On our part, Egypt will continue to provide support to Guinea-Bissau through the technical assistance, training, and capacity building programs provided by the Cairo Peacebuilding and Peacekeeping Center and the Egyptian Agency of Partnership for Development. Moreover, the AUPCRD, when operational, can further complement peacebuilding efforts in Guinea-Bissau. To conclude, Mr. Chair, I wish to reiterate Egypt's unwavering support and solidarity with our brothers and sisters overcoming the destabilizing impacts of COVID-19 and the potential tensions they face. and the political tension they face. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the distinguished permanent representative of Egypt for his statement. And I now give the floor to the distinguished permanent representative of Morocco, friend Omar Hilali.
I thank you very much, my good friend Ronaldo, and our good chair of the configuration of Guinea-Bissau. First of all, I would like to thank you for convening this very important meeting of the Guinea-Bissau configuration. And a special thanks also to our speakers for their anticipated briefings about the current situation in the brotherly country of Guinea-Bissau. After hearing all briefings, we can agree that Guinea-Bissau stands today in very critical juncture of its transition phase and its peace-building process. I wish, therefore, to make the three following points. First, Guinea-Bissau has deployed significant and continuous efforts in the implementation of the Conakry Agreement and to carry out its electoral cycle, which concluded last December with the election of His Excellency Mr. Omaro Sissoko Embalo as President of the Republic. Two, the peace-building process of Guinea-Bissau has to deal with the imminent and significant challenges that is the upcoming rundown of Guinea-Bissau and the gradual transfer of the mission tasked to the UN country team, the UN Office for West Africa, and the Sahel, UNOWAS, and other partners. And here I would like to say to our dear sister, Maria Antonieta, the DPR of Guinea-Bissau, that we heard her call and we totally share her wish and the wish of her people and her country that Guinea-Bissau now is turning the page of the past, starting another new chapter, and it needs a new mandate. People is waiting for something new, for hopes, and also for perspectives to build the new or to write the new page of their history as a nation, as country, stable country, and as also element for peace and stability in the region. My third observation is that the COVID-19 only came to add an unprecedented and unpredictable set of new threats, which have the ability to seriously compromise a decade-long effort deployed in Guinea-Bissau. Mr. President, the prospect can be concerning, and I wish to call on the PBC and the international community to reinforce their assistance in the fight against the effects of this global scourge. We have to make sure that the decade-long gains are safeguarded and further consolidated to build suitable conditions for a smooth, sustainable socio-economic development, particularly in this uniquely challenging times and with the end of the 20 years of presence of UNIC-BIS. To conclude, Mr. Chair, my country shares this concern and remains committed to the peace, security, stability, and development of Guinea-Bissau. His Majesty King Mohammed VI of Morocco gave his royal instruction to send last April at the height of the pandemic essential medical aid and equipments to support Guinea-Bissau in its fight against the COVID. No later than last week, the historical and brotherly bilateral relations reached a new threshold with the opening of a Moroccan embassy in Bissau and with the signing of 4 cooperation agreements related to industry, energy, tourism, and transport and logistics during Her Excellency's Suzy Carla Barbosa, Minister of Foreign Affairs, visit in Rabat, which makes the commencement of a new era of economic cooperation and partnership. Morocco calls for continued financial and technical support to Guinea-Bissau through the PBF during this transition phase and beyond, so that the UN country team and UNWAS can deliver on the real needs of the people to promote sustainable peace and development in this country. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Omar, distinguished permanent representative of Morocco. I'm now pleased to give the floor to the distinguished permanent representative of Portugal, Ambassador Francisco Lopes.
Thank you very much, muito obrigado, Mr. Chairman, and also thank you for convening this meeting. I also thank today's briefers, and allow me to especially congratulate you, Mr. Chairman, on giving us the chance to listen to the voice of the women of Guinea-Bissau through the intervention of Ms. Anna Touré. And we especially noted what she said about the need to safeguard the support to gender and gender issues and equality in this period of transition. I also join our colleague from Guinea-Bissau, Maria Antonieta Dalva, in her praising of SRSG Rosine Coulibaly. Mr. Chairman, as today's briefings highlighted, the transition and closure of UNIOGBIS will take place amidst a scenario of considerable challenges to Guinea-Bissau's institutional capabilities and socio-economic development. Guinea-Bissau will need strong international support and will need partnerships between the UN and other actors. In that context, we welcome the results of your meeting with the IMF, and we welcome today's briefing from our colleague of the African Development Bank. With the closure of UNIOGBIS, it will be important to advance in the operationalization of the high-level platform on reforms proposed by the SRSG. To that regard, we encourage UNIOGBIS and the SRSG to continue working closely with the P5. The transition period will find Guinea-Bissau in a difficult situation in a context of a global pandemic and a global economic crisis, as we have already heard. Therefore, coordination among the international community will be essential, including to hold on to some reassuring milestones, like the fall in child mortality, recently announced by UNICEF. This fall in child mortality in Guinea-Bissau is a good incentive for the country and its partners, including Portugal and the European Union that have been partnering, especially in this area, for many years, to achieve long-lasting and concrete results. Instruments such as the recently adopted National Development Plan and the UN's forthcoming Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework will be relevant tools to mark the way ahead, so that international support can go hand in hand with national priorities and with national ownership. Portugal remains firmly committed to that end. Several high-level bilateral political visits have taken place recently as we progress in the negotiation with the authorities of Guinea-Bissau on the new bilateral strategic partnership program for 2021-2026, which will retain focus or special focus on health and education. Both sides are determined to have that document finalized before the end of the year. Mr. Chairman, the PBC has an important role in mobilizing support to the peace-building priorities of Guinea-Bissau. Progress in areas such as security sector reform, institutional capacity building, gender and women empowerment, youth, climate change, health and education will be critically important for the sustainable development of the country. And debt relief initiatives should also be part of the answer. Respect for the rule of law and human rights and a favorable business climate are essential to attract more investment. To conclude, Mr. Chairman, we trust that this configuration will work closely with the Guinea-Bissau authorities the SRSG, the Secretariat, the Future Country Team, and all the other relevant stakeholders, so that we can all join efforts in avoiding, as much as possible, the financial cliff in this transition period. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Francisco Lopes, distinguished permanent representative of Portugal. I'm now pleased to give the floor to the distinguished deputy permanent representative of Sweden, Magnus Lennart. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Costafillo, for convening this meeting. I would also like to thank the Special Representative of the Secretary General for updating us on the evolving political situation in Guinea-Bissau, as well as on the progress related to the drawdown of UNIOG-BIS. We're also pleased to see that representatives from ECOWAS and the African Development Bank, as well as civil society, have joined this meeting, enabling various perspectives to enrich our discussion. As many have stated, this continues to be a critical year for Guinea-Bissau, with transitional political power, as well as a transition of the UN presence in the country. And all this while dealing with the pandemic. We believe that PBC's continued support and engagement during this period is crucial. Once UNIOG-BIS draws down at the end of this year, the PBC configuration will serve as an even more important platform where attention and support for Guinea-Bissau's peace-building and development priorities can continue. As chair of the Liberia configuration, we have seen firsthand, as UNMIL closed, how the role of the PBC has become even more pronounced as a platform for discussion of Liberia's challenges and peace-building priorities. In Guinea-Bissau, the PBC is well placed to bring together a wide range of actors and ensure space for dialogue, which can translate into concrete and coherent action. Mr. Chair, full and equal and meaningful participation of women and empowerment of women peace builders is crucial to build a sustainable peace. We commend the efforts of the Peace Building Fund during last year's election to this end, supporting a Women's Situation Center of civil society election monitors, as well as supporting targeted campaigns encouraging women to vote. We encourage continued support to the work of local civil society actors on the ground. In conclusion, let me reiterate Sweden's support to Guinea-Bissau in its effort to continue to build and consolidate peace. I thank Brazil once again for convening this meeting.
Thank you very much to the distinguished Deputy Permanent Representative of Sweden. Let me now pass the floor to the representative of Japan, Ambassador Namazulu. You have the floor, sir.
I thank Ambassador Costafillo for convening this meeting. I also thank SRSG Suri Koulibaly and all the briefers for setting out clearly the challenges and opportunities in Guinea-Bissau. The spread of COVID-19 has exacerbated a multifaceted human security crisis across the African continent, and Guinea-Bissau is no exception. Among all the challenges in the country, Japan is particularly concerned about the severe food shortages the people of Guinea-Bissau are facing. With the aim of alleviating their food insecurity and supporting their resilience in the face of the pandemic, Japan has provided a grant assistance of around $4.5 million through the World Food Program for this year. What is truly needed is a strong political will by the country's political leaders to implement their commitments made in the Conakry Agreement and the ECOWAS roadmap. Reforms to avoid another political impasse need to be prioritized. Governance must be strengthened through implementing reforms on all fronts, particularly in the security and judicial sectors. The political leaders need to join hands so that they create a functioning and accountable government which can provide security and justice as well as basic services. At the same time, the international community must continue its substantial support to the Guinea-Bissau Guineans for their reform efforts. International support needed is not just financial and material aspects. Continued encouragement from the international community should help the political leaders maintain high morale to keep up with their reform efforts. As the planned drawdown of UNIOG-BIS proceeds, the role of the PBC as a platform to gather and integrate international support will become even more important. The PBC should continue to provide valuable advice to key UN bodies on the situation in Guinea-Bissau. As Japanese Prime Minister Suga expressed in his address at the GA General Debate last month, Japan will continue to contribute to sustaining peace globally, including through our work at PBC. Under the banner of the New Approach for Peace and Stability in Africa, or NAPSA, Japan seeks to implement further assistance to Guinea-Bissau with the aim of ensuring human security and supporting institutional buildings in coordination with the state and local authorities. If time allows, I would appreciate further comments from briefers or a distinguished representative of Guinea-Bissau of the importance or challenges of building various national and local institutions. I thank you.
I thank Ambassador Namazu for his statement and his contribution to the debate. And now give the floor to the representative of Germany. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks to all the briefers. Germany highly welcomes this meeting of the Peace Building Commission on Guinea-Bissau today, and I think all the statements of the briefers we heard today underlined that international support and cooperation remain crucial to assist Guinea-Bissau with its peace-building priorities and its socio-economic development, in particular in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. While recognizing the recent and more positive developments, including the end to the electoral disputes, the events in the past year, that is the severe tensions after the presidential elections, reports of human rights abuses, including arbitrary detentions, threats and use of force against political actors, and of course also the interference of the military occupying state and media institutions, continued to call for particular attention to the situation in the country. And moreover, we are concerned about organized crime and drug trafficking and its repercussions that constitute a critical challenge to the whole regional security. And it also weakens state authority, which is supposed to provide safety and security for the population. In this regard, we want to underline that effective anti-corruption measures are key. And since the chair has encouraged questions to the briefers, I would be interested to hear if one of the briefers could elaborate a bit on this aspect of anti-corruption in the particular country context. In the light of the upcoming transition with the closure of UNIOG-BIS, it is also imperative to ensure continued attention, and the role of the PBC in this regard is crucial, including supporting the UN country team in implementation of the reform agenda and in promoting the role of women and youth in political and peace-building processes. I was very happy to hear today's presentation by Ms. Touré in this regard. And we would also like to highlight the importance of women's full, equal and meaningful participation in all political processes. And this is a merit in its own right, as well as an imperative step to sustainable stability. And the same holds true for the role of youth in peace-building processes. However, in all our engagement, we need to bear in mind not only the impact of current challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, but also broader issues like climate change. And the broader issues just bring me to my last point, which is the regional implications. And we think it's important to look at Guinea-Bissau also in the light with its connections to the Sahel. In our view, we need to think developments in the Sahel and West African coastal states together. We need to strengthen crisis prevention in order to contain destabilizing dynamics from spilling over to the Gulf of Guinea. And of course, security issues persist and are partly aggravated by the pandemic these days. And we need to remain committed to continue the partnership with Sahel states working on pressing issues, including security. And in this regard, regional cooperation is of paramount importance, especially ECOWAS, the African Union and UNIVAS play a crucial role in stabilizing not only Guinea-Bissau, but the whole region. I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, again for calling this meeting today, and Germany counts on all members to continue working jointly to support Guinea-Bissau in these very trying times. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the distinguished representative of Germany. And now I turn the floor to the representative of the European Union. You have the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ambassador and Chair, for convening this meeting, which takes place at a very crucial moment for Guinea-Bissau. From the EU side, I just want to make a few remarks to ensure you that we are fully committed to supporting Guinea-Bissau at this critical stage of transition. We are committed to a sustainable democratic transition and to helping ensure stability after the departure of UNIUGBIX. Through our EU delegation in Guinea-Bissau, we take part actively in the P5 coordination of international partners. In fact, such a meeting is taking place today. Since the beginning of the political crisis, the EU has supported and continues to support the ECOWAS mediation in Guinea-Bissau. Regarding the political situation, we have now entered a phase where we engage with the new government. The European Union has already met several of the new ministers, among other things, to discuss some of our projects in the country. At the same time, we ensure that we take an inclusive approach and remain in close contact with a variety of stakeholders, including civil society and the PAIGC-led opposition. Nevertheless, I would like to stress that we continue to monitor the political situation very closely, in particular this constitutional reform, both from the point of view of the process and from the point of view of the outcome. We also need to monitor closely the long-awaited reform of the security sector. Needless to say, we also follow the economic situation closely and expect that economic growth prospects will be heavily affected both by the political instability and by the COVID-19 pandemic that has led to the suspension of all international flights, closure of the borders, and other measures that have badly affected the domestic economy. With the scheduled departure of UNIUGBIX at the end of this year, we see a greater role for the Peacebuilding Commission in continuing to support and monitor the situation. The role of regional organizations such as the ECOWAS will also increase, and we continue to work closely with them as with the UN country team on the ground. I want to thank all the briefers today who gave extremely thorough briefings and covered all the different aspects of Guinea-Bissau and the developments there today. And I wanted to ask a question which perhaps some of the briefers who are working in Guinea-Bissau could address. And I think it would be very interesting to hear from them how, especially after UNIUGBIX has left, how can the advice that the PBC is giving best be transmitted to those working on the ground, and how can we remain in closer contact and keep each other updated of the developments? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the distinguished representative of the European Union. She is the last member. Now I see a call from the ambassador of Cabo Verde, Ambassador José Luis Rocha. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you indeed very much, Ambassador Ronald, for giving me the floor. Greetings to all participants and all protocol observed. I will be very, very brief since as the last intervenient, I have been listening and so many important statements have been made. I would like to commend you, Ambassador Ronald, for your leadership with regard to the Peacebuilding Commission, Guinea-Bissau configuration. The job you are doing in this context is very impressive, and I wanted to let it known. I welcome all the briefers that update us in very important subjects on the issue of on the situation of Guinea-Bissau, and also the state and mates. Ambassador and participants, For me, the situation in Guinea-Bissau has shown political progress recently related to the electoral process. Still, the situation remains challenging with regard to institutional reforms that are on the table in order to find the necessary stability and framework to envisage social and economic improvements that Guinea-Bissau for a long time is being looking for. Guinea-Bissau is the typical situation where continuous international support and partnership in the context of post-crisis situation is essential. Continuity and not disruption is necessary to provide support for progress in order to avoid setbacks that the country knew until now. As Cabo Verde, we support the call made by the Deputy Permanent Representative and Chargé d'Affaires, Antonieta Lopez, for sustaining peace and a sustainable development approach for Guinea-Bissau, in particular by the UN. It is important that in this context of the post-crisis situation, the United Nations and other major stakeholders, as it has been said here and witnessed by African Development Bank and others, that these partners stay present in supporting Guinea-Bissau. As for the CPLP, the organization will continue to develop its efforts within the framework and in articulation with the other members of the P5 group, United Nations, African Union, Economic Community of West African States, European Union, and in order to advance the necessary reforms from, we have been discussing this issue of reforms for many years, back to the beginning of 2000. The need for reforms of justice sector, reform for defense and security. Now, the crucial reform of the constitution or institutional reforms at large, in order to create the necessary conditions and framework for quick economic and social development that people in Guinea-Bissau, women in particular, they strongly need. We believe also that CPLP can call for the international group of contact in order to assist in the present moment, where Guinea-Bissau needs our cooperation, it needs our support, and needs more than ever our partnership. I stop here because everything else has been said. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much to my good friend, Ambassador José Luis Rocha, for this statement. As I said before, as far as I'm aware, this brings me to the end of the list of speakers. I'm going to cycle through the briefers now, should they wish to react to any of the comments and to the specific questions. And I would just remind the specific questions that have been addressed. First from Ambassador Namazu of Japan, and the questions related as to, if I understand correctly, how we can promote bigger engagement of civil society in the peace building and peace sustaining efforts in Guinea-Bissau. The representative of Germany asked for any updates on efforts in the field of anti-corruption. And the representative from the EU posed a question on how to ensure a fluid relationship and between deconfiguration and the actors in the field once UNIOGBIS's drawdown is complete. So these are the specific questions that have been posed. without prejudice to any comments or reactions to the statements from members by the briefers. Let me also say that briefers are not obliged to respond. The opportunity is given to them if they feel they would like to respond to any of these questions. So I will cycle in the same order we had the briefings and start with, excuse me, SRSG Hossein Suhiga Koulibaly. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Excellency and Excellencies, PBC members. I would like here to sincerely thank you all for all the support that we have received during the implementation of the mandates of the Security Council. I just want to reaffirm you as well that we stand committed to continue working with you until the closure of the mission. Regarding the questions that have been raised, I maybe just emphasize the importance of continuing working with not only the resident coordinator, but also UNOWAS and the other partners. I am convinced that the platform that I was intending to put in place is still important, to have a broader dialogue and coordinated efforts of the international community to support not only the peace building priorities, but beyond also to support the government in the implementation of its own priorities. On other questions that have been raised, I think I have no particular comment on that. I see that it's important that to continue working together to avoid the setback, as one of the peers was saying. And for the anti-corruption, there was a statement that was made, but I think that in the framework of the governance program, maybe a coordinated work can be done and the dialogue can be also fostered with the national authorities. Thank you very much again. It was really a pleasure having your support and working very closely with the configuration. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hossein Suhiga Koulibaly, for your response. Next in order would be the ECOWAS representative. Ambassador Ohin seems to be absent. So I would ask Ambassador Kapia if he would like to respond to any of the questions or comments made.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Costa, for giving me the floor. I hope people can hear me. And actually, I don't think there was any particular question directed to us. I was believing the issue of anti-corruption would be is addressed by Ambassador Koulibaly. So if not, then we'll find some more information on that. But I believe the UN office in Guinea-Bissau is working with the government to address those issues for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Kapia. Next, I turn to Mr. Nguessan, if he would like to comment or respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, and really thank you for the comment and the support. On the question of raised on civil society involvement is critical. The African Development Bank has been working with the civil society, strengthening the capacity of the civil society itself, and using the civil society also to implement some of our projects, especially the project in the governance sector. It's critical for us. We see the civil society not just as a call it a type of a control for the work program or the government development plan implementation, but as part of the work the state does. So we are really working closely with the civil society, especially in the rural areas. Anti-corruption action. This is corruption has been one of the key challenges of Guinea-Bissau since independence. And each government has, and this new government are starting to work on developing a anti-corruption strategy, which they came to us, the African Development Bank, to help them develop that strategy and also help them finance the activities, the action plan related to that. Not more than yesterday, I mean, on Friday, the Senegalese government had a very important delegation in Guinea-Bissau to support Guinea-Bissau in public management and some investment. And one key area of discussion was the corruption program, anti-corruption program. We wanted to support with the Senegalese the public administration reform, which we know is also one area which is linked to this corruption issue. And the strengthening of the judiciary system, it's also important, and we are supporting that. Regarding the collaboration after the withdrawal of the Guinea-Bissau, I think for us, the work the Commission is doing is very important. It will be for the people on the ground to find a way, and I think we have the structure on the ground, even with the UN team on the ground, to find a way to provide you with really update of the situation on the ground, to get advice and guidance from the Commission to help us really make our work easier. So I think that will remain, and we'll be pleased really to provide any update the Commission wants regularly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngessan. Now I turn to Ms. Anna Touré now. And I know we have a language barrier here. I don't know to what degree and to what depth Ms. Touré has followed all of the discussions. I would, with the Commission's, with the configuration's permission, specifically translate into Portuguese Ambassador Namazu's question about engagement with civil society for her, to see if she has any more to add to her comprehensive statement on this issue initially. So I will address her directly. Senhora Ana Touré, não sei até que ponto acompanhou com atenção, com detalhe, o debate em inglês, mas houve uma pergunta específica dirigida pelo embaixador do Japão sobre meios de fortalecer o engajamento da sociedade civil no processo interno de construção da paz em Guiné-Bissau. E pergunto se teria algo a acrescentar, que seja breve, que eu possa traduzir de volta para o inglês, para os membros, nesse momento. Obrigado.
Ok, muito obrigada pela oportunidade. Realmente, os meios de engajamento seria o diálogo. Seria o diálogo permanente entre as instituições, não só do governo, como do Estado, do governo, e assim como da sociedade civil, com envolvimento e participação das mulheres e dos jovens.
Okay, thank you. I mean, as I mentioned, I conveyed to Ms. Touré specifically the question posed by Ambassador Namazu, and her basic message here is that the key element to strengthen this is permanent dialogue. And this permanent dialogue has to involve all the institutions of government with those of the associations of civil society, and in particular those dedicated to women and youth. This was her very brief message in response to Ambassador Namazu. Now, having concluded this portion, I'd like to say that we try to spare USG Fernandes Taranco because we know he is an overextended resource in all things related to peace building. but I would not like to conclude the meeting without offering him the opportunity to make some comments on today's discussions. Oscar, you have the floor.
Muito obrigado, Ambassador Antonio Costa Filho. Really, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and to thank all the briefers actually for their very, very thoughtful, very comprehensive statements and briefing and putting us up to speed on developments in this very crucial period. You know, we have 65 days to the end of this mission and still a lot of work, and to ensure that the transfer of responsibilities to the UN country team, to the national actors, to UNOWAS, etc., is actually being supported. And I think this country configuration plays a unique and crucial role to ensure that we are better able to enhance coordination mechanisms as all of this is happening. So first of all, just to state the obvious, but PBSO is really very committed to supporting the success of this country configuration in its effort to support the government to tackle the challenges that are impeding the stability and long-term development, and also to see how the many aspects of the reform agenda that almost all the speakers refer to continue to be one of the top priorities identified by the many institutions and several governments that we have had the privilege to work through this country configuration. And I think at the heart of all this dynamic is the implementations of those two 2016 Conakry agreement. There's a lot of very important and fundamental reform considerations there that go to the heart of the stability of the country. I think another key takeaway from today, and we heard it from ECOWAS, we heard it from the African Development Bank representatives, from the Deputy Permanent Representative, and from our speakers representing civil society, how crucial this notion of strategic partnerships with regional and sub-regional organizations are, and especially with the international financial institutions. I'm very pleased from the outcome of your own briefings, Ambassador, regarding the IMF's engagement here. So I think this is a unique platform where the work of the IMF, of the World Bank, of the Africa Development Bank, together, of course, with the very important role of other multilateral and bilateral partners, I'm thinking here of the EU and many of the countries represented here, extremely important is this notion of enhanced coordination. So from our lessons learned of transition. We've learned this from Liberia, we've learned this from Sierra Leone, we've learned this from Cote d'Ivoire. The notion of high-level coordination mechanisms is fundamental here, especially as the mission is drawing down. So maybe a special plea to the plead of our SRSG to ensure that a review or additional consideration be given to ensure that the government and the international community, together with this configuration, have a platform of coordination going forward. And in a way, it addresses one question that was raised, how to ensure follow-up and support. Also, just to state that we have been, the PBF, through this rapid, flexible, small targeted funding, has really been trying to build the institutions at the central and at the local level, and equally important, to bring in inclusivity into this dimension of the national ownership of those priorities. And crucial to this notion of inclusivity, and I think the briefer, Ms. Anna Touré, mentioned it repeatedly, is to invest in the empowerment of women's organizations and youth associations. They have proven to be critical frontline peace builders in Guinea-Bissau. They have been at the heart of a lot of the inclusive political dialogue and have ensured that these elections that we saw, that were referred to, were peaceful. So again, maybe just to inform the members of this configuration that as we are speaking, we are about to approve a program to continue to support youth dialogue and community leaders as part of the 2020 Gender and Youth Promotion Initiative. And again, it will build on a lot of the funding that the fund has allocated, particularly supporting women's organization and grassroots community initiatives. And then the last point is, I think, as SRSG, our good friend and colleague Rosine Koulibaly just stated, it's extremely important that the residual priorities of the mission are successfully transferred to the national authorities, and that the UN country team is able to step up to this transition continuity. And here, because the question was raised on anti-corruption and increased engagement of civil society, one key component that we've discussed in many, many meetings, and to which the Peace Building Fund actually allocated resources at the beginning of this year, is the fight against drug trafficking in Guinea-Bissau. We have a big program that was approved. We have the UNODC, as well as the platform to promote political dialogue. So these two programs are now currently being reviewed against the new priorities, and particularly with the adoption by the National Assembly of the government's program and the state budget and the National Development Plan. So we are in a constant state of adaptation, particularly also because of the impact of COVID-19. But just to reassure everybody that Peace Building Fund, the PBSO, DPPA will continue to remain very much engaged. This is a top priority for our Secretary General to ensure that transitions are carefully and adequately supported, resourced, and backstopped, if you will. And last but not least, this is a unique role that the Security Council has over several years now been pointing to, the unique role that the Peace Building Commission can play in supporting the long-term sustained attention to mobilize political resources and any other type of support that the national priorities on the ground might warrant. So with this, Ambassador, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Obrigado.
Thank you very much, Oscar, for very useful and important messages there. I've been advised Mr. Anatole would like to take the floor again. If that is the case, she has the floor.
Mais uma vez, e muito obrigada agora pela oportunidade, realmente. Só para dizer que a Guiné-Bissau, como todo mundo sabe, é um país fraco, está muito frágil. Realmente, ações concertadas ia ser muito importante nesta fase, porque realmente nós, as mulheres, com este período de Covid, vimos que realmente o sistema de educação e o sistema de saúde, que já eram sistemas muito fracos, nós gostaríamos realmente de ver ações orientadas e concretizadas nestas áreas, porque está a afetar sobremaneira a vida das mulheres. E a situação econômica também não tem estado a ajudar. De forma coordenada e organizada, podemos realmente melhorar essas condições. Mas eu gostaria realmente de voltar mais uma vez a dizer que essa saída da UNIOGBIS, não digo que é o fim, mas sim realmente é necessário, em conjunto, se encontrar a forma coordenada como essas ações vão ter a continuidade no terreno, junto das mulheres, com os jovens, que realmente façam muita diferença neste país. E para dizer muito obrigado por esta oportunidade, estaremos, nós, as mulheres, sempre disponíveis, se formos convocadas, estaremos aí para realmente tratarmos desse assunto de desenvolvimento da Guiné-Bissau. Muito obrigada.
Obrigado, Sr. Arthur. Vou arriscar-me a traduzir a mensagem. As I will hesitantly risk a translation of Ms. Touré's, I think, important final messages. She highlighted that Guinea-Bissau is, in effect, in a fragile situation, and that coordinated support from its partners is an essential element in the current situation. She highlights in particular the situation of women in the fact that COVID has brought to light the particular fragility of the health system in Guinea-Bissau, and that this impacts disproportionately on women. And she appeals, I think, for concerted action in the field, particularly of health, but also in the support to the economy of Guinea-Bissau. Her final message is perhaps a word of caution or concern with the drawdown of UNIOGBIS and the uncertainty as to how the coordination of support to peace building will continue as of next year in Guinea-Bissau. So it's an appeal that we continue our efforts in the configuration, I think, to support in a coordinated manner the efforts of Guinea-Bissau. I hope I have captured. I see Oscar shaking his head, so maybe I didn't get it all wrong. So having said that, let me just make some final remarks as to the discussions today. Thanking first and foremost to all the members of the configuration who have accompanied the meeting, who have presented their feedback and their comments and their inputs to our continued work in support of Guinea-Bissau. Let me also thank each and every one of the briefers for their valuable contributions. One runs out of synonyms to say what the contribution that the briefers bring to the meetings. But I think it's important to say that it's irreplaceable to have a view from those who are on the field and following the issues we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I think their perceptions and insights are invaluable. So thank them all. Let me highlight a few takeaways for me based on the comments and observations of the briefers, as well as those presented by members of the configuration here today. First of all is I think, a word of commendation to the actors or the political actors in Guinea-Bissau for their commitment to peace and their willingness to resort to dialogue as a way of bridging the differences. Ms. Rosine Sohi-Coulibaly still is, I think, a bit frustrated that this has not gone further, but I think we have to highlight that there has been some engagement and that we must stimulate this to go further. We also welcome the steadfast support of the P5 group, in particular the role ECOWAS has been playing on the ground in promoting a more stable environment in Guinea-Bissau. I think the expectation, mine is for sure, and I think of all the configuration, is that Guinea-Bissau can now focus its attention towards implementing its development strategy. I think it's clear that development partners are ready to support this effort in Guinea-Bissau implementing its peace-building priorities. And I don't think I can underscore with enough emphasis the importance that should be given to the element of national ownership in defining these priorities. I think this is key to ensure long-term sustainability of development efforts. I think the Peace Building Commission will continue to serve as a platform of discussion between Guinea-Bissau and its partners on the country's peace-building priorities. I think that the briefing we received today from the African Development Bank and the contacts I have been able to have with the IMF are just two examples of this bridging role that the PBC can play. I think the Commission remains willing to mobilize international and regional support for Guinea-Bissau, particularly for the National Development Plan and future UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. In recognition of an anticipated funding shortfall after UNIOGBIS's closure. Now, our attention to economic revitalization and the country's cooperation with the international financial institutions will be of particular relevance in the coming months. I will continue to engage with the World Bank, the IMF, and other institutions in order to encourage their continued cooperation with the government of Guinea-Bissau. In the context of the UN transition, I reiterate the Peacebuilding Commission's willingness to continue working to further system-wide coherence between UNIOGBIS, the country team, and all international and regional actors. Now, as the transition approaches its final stages, the configuration will remain engaged with UNIOGBIS and the country team to learn more about the process. And I think this is something that's been highlighted by more than one speaker, with a certain hesitancy and concern about how this transition is going to take place and what the effects are going to be on the process of support. I think it's incumbent on all of us to try and help to make this transition as smooth as possible and to ensure that support does not waver after UNIOGBIS leaves the country finally at the end of the year. Now, we do intend to, as the case may be, present updates on this to the members of the configuration in the coming weeks. I take note also, and I think this is a very consistent feedback we received today, on the importance members of the configuration attribute to the vital contributions of civil society in Guinea-Bissau. And I think I speak for all of us when I say we value full, effective, and meaningful participation and representation of civil society, including women and youth at all levels, in peace building and in sustaining peace. Our interaction today with Mr. Rare gives us hope that civil society in Guinea-Bissau will continue to play a pivotal role in the country's stability and development. Finally, I take it that we as members of the configuration recognize the critical support provided by the Peace Building Fund, whose activities have been playing an important role in the transition. And we are confident that in the future, the fund will continue to be a valuable tool to finance strategic projects in Guinea-Bissau. Before concluding, I would like to, from the bottom of my heart, to reiterate our appreciation for the excellent cooperation we have been receiving from SRSG, Rosine Sohi-Coulibaly, and from her team at UNIOGBIS. Ms. Sohi-Coulibaly has demonstrated her leadership and skills during this critical phase in the stabilization of Guinea-Bissau, including in the always complex process of the UN transition. Since this is one, if perhaps not the last, of her briefings to the PBC, hopefully not the last, I take this opportunity to really express my sincere thanks for her excellent cooperation with the Guinea-Bissau configuration. Please count on our full support during this final phase of the UNIOGBIS transition. Finally, thank you to the entire UN system, particularly PBSO, for their, as always, invaluable support. Thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Leo.
Obrigado, muchas gracias.
Obrigada, obrigada.
Obrigado, muito obrigado.
Obrigada.
Obrigada.
Obrigado, até a próxima.
Obrigada.
Bye.
Obrigada. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you,
Very
Ms.
much.
Ture. Thank you. Obrigada.
Obrigada, obrigada.